Reid with a Creole, but we no normal. With a coffee and we royal. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like taffy. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee and my style sticky like taffy. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Minor, tell you things you want make you catch feeling. Your mere existence you want left to examine. Ebenezer me gone, me know for the squeeze dumpling. Believe woman sweet like stew pumpkin. See me, but you don't know me. Confident, say that me bossy. Inquisitive, you call me nosy. Defend me rights, holler at me chancy. Me know this show no mercy. We don't take no back chat from nobody. You know have feel like me, but you must respect me. Tell this more. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like taffy. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Me cool and deadly. Machine gun Kelly. Machiavelli. Stay ready like Freddy. We have woman plenty. Woman the city, woman the country. You coulda act like you don't want believe me. Ask the white, that me bally. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like taffy. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee and my style sticky like taffy. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Lot of sexy woman come out of the valley. Me like the way the body move when them the party. And a piece white and Alta Leslie. And the one name Gilda Courtney. Dano Jam, Sadamus Jelly from me Lille. Me know where to do with me till it. Me grow up as a bedroom bully. Bucket with vein full up them belly. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like taffy. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee and my style sticky like taffy. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like taffy. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee and my style sticky like taffy. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Easy squeeze make no riot, so they make noise easy. See why alongside Wavy and my boy YG. Me no need no gimme for to make the lyrics public. Me no need no fire pan, no stick, make it ball like a wind. Now jump up in the air, sound by beat where we fling bout lyrics like fear. Me no need no gimme for to make the lyrics public. Me no need no fire pan, no stick, make it ball like a wind. Now jump up in the air, sound by beat where we fling bout lyrics like fear. Music, down noise, gun and toys. Some boy me telling us you no must realize. Me like them words out of my mouth is strange. Some your lyrics that I forget rearrange.
Buenas noches, son las miércoles, que es abril 30, which means that tomorrow is the 1st of May. Welcome to our weekly podcast, back in our familiar Wednesday evening slot. We did well on the Friday slot, but we think that it's more geared towards the musical thing. CY is going to continue in that day with the entertainment business and promoting music and other entertainers. But we believe that Wednesday the mature audience likes to engage in the matters of the day, pertinent matters, issues that hit the mainstream and affect us in the most serious way. A number of issues here. We are expecting tonight to be joined by a man who is known to be there he is, a revolutionary from the very beginning. Norman Fairweather. Good evening, brother. How are you?
Yes, my brother. I'm good.
Now, thank you for
Doing
joining us
good.
once again. Like, always good to be in your presence and having a conversation with you is quite enlightening. How's the health?
Good.
Wonderful,
Good. Good.
wonderful.
Hmm.
Yeah, I am back from my second tryst in Mexico City,
Yes,
and
sir. See.
I
Hmm.
love Mexico. Norman, there's a warmth to Mexico City. You know, what impresses me most is the way they provide service. You know, all the service
Hmm.
providers, whether it be taxi drivers, the waiters and waitresses in the restaurants, even the police officers. Once you don't
Wow.
step out the line, you're dealt with in a professional, courteous manner, and I am really impressed with that. We here at home have a long way to go now, man. In that regard, you know. Um,
Yeah.
the difference is like over there, they make you know that you know what you're the reason we have a job. You
Mm.
are the boss.
Hmm.
What can we do to help you? In Belize, it is not unusual for somebody to tell you, well, you could go somewhere else if you want. No? You don't have to. You don't have to do that nothing for please you.
Hmm.
Sad state of circumstances.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. Uh, are you? Did you catch up on the situation in Guyana? I know you're up on the international news.
With a child that
Yes,
drum.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
man.
yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Um,
man.
there
Horrible.
were interesting situation because I think of a pool, and
Hmm.
if they had searched the pool before, even
Hmm.
just looking around a pool and looking inside, I don't see how you could miss a body.
Yeah.
It's not a baby. It's not a small child. The picture they show of the girl
11
is,
years old.
yeah, getting up mature. So
Yeah.
I don't know how. And they're saying they searched the pool the night before, didn't find the body, and then
Next
the
day.
the next day the body shows up. Um,
Well, I feel like the police is covering for somebody.
yeah, because there was a report first that the child was seen leaving the area in a vehicle.
Yes.
Turns out no such thing occurred.
Nothing happened.
Or
Yeah.
at least, um, if the child left the scene, then it was he would she was returned. No,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
I
couldn't
can't.
determine whether the water in her body was the water from the pool or is it water from someplace else. That's
That is
what one of the doctors was saying.
that's interesting because I didn't even look at that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It goes to show that these investigators, if they want to be, they can be thorough.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because that right there, yes, would tell a lot.
Yep.
Um, and I'm sure they can. That shouldn't be too hard for them to do.
No, it shouldn't be at all. But
I can't.
but boy, that
Yeah,
it's horrible.
yeah. I'm saying
It's
I can't
really horrible.
imagine that a family spending time enjoying themselves.
Hmm.
A young girl with such potential, so much life left ahead
Yeah,
of her,
man.
Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for the family. I tell you that.
Yes, I listened to the father. The father was distraught, man, because he was telling them search before. He said she's still in the building. She's still in that place. So we
Wow.
don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, but I again, I see too the community up in arms. I mean, to the
Oh
point
yes,
that
yeah.
that
Went back to burn down the place,
That
man.
rough then burned
Yeah.
down the resident of the owner too.
Oh, not yes.
But
Yeah.
then someone was pointing out, Norman, too, that Guyana has a serious racial rife too.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was asking my Guyanese friends. Them is this the beginning of an explosion, a racial? Because
yeah,
it's there. It's
is,
there.
is the owner Indian or something, as opposed to
Don't know. Don't know.
yeah. Now, an interesting aspect to be looking at though.
Hmm.
And yeah, because they are always on the edge, you
Yeah.
know. What that is situation as far as you know, Norman, is that one matter of one group thinking they're superior to the others, and trying
Well,
to
the Indians were rural before, and the government, the levers of government was always black people from the Burnham years,
uh
you know.
So who
And,
would be prejudiced in who?
well, now Indians are in the position. The government is Indian.
Okay,
It's mixed. It's not fair to say that it's all Indian. It's mixed,
it's
but
mixed in that both sides are guilty. Um,
no, it's mixed in the sense that there are Indians and blacks in the
right.
leadership
Oh,
in senior
of the
positions.
country,
Yeah, yeah,
but they're still not. They're not known to get along as such.
yeah.
Eh, eh,
Well, the rural people, lots of them rich, lots of them come with gold,
Okay,
you
so
know.
they believe that they have some sort of
Yeah, but
uh,
I
um,
mean,
upper hand.
Chedi Jagan was Indian, and he was prime minister at one point, considered communist, but
Uh, I saw the story, and I wonder, because there are two ways to look at that. One would be that it shows the community getting involved in
hmm.
issues to a point where they'll make their voices heard. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It looks seriously. It looks like the police is under attack. They're not trusted. The way how the police have been handling this has been really strange. From
probably,
that story that the child had left the building and then they come back and find the body in the pool that was searched before.
yeah.
So
Somebody was saying the water in the pool was murky, that they might have missed the body. Uh, I don't know, Norman. I know what a pool looks like. Um,
and I don't know. I really don't know. Trying to look at it from afar. I can only rely from the friends I have
and
from
the
there.
reports you get on the media, no?
Yeah, that you know.
Has it calmed down a bit, or does it look like it might be stirring up, or like you put it, maybe a point where it's going to spill over into more problems?
I that's the question I ask. Is this gonna spill? What's going on with this?
What kind of answer did you get? Or they just don't know?
Boy, we out of hand, is it?
Yeah.
They're asking the president is to get rid of uh, Region 3 Divisional Commander.
Well, somebody going to be a scapegoat. You know that.
Yeah, yeah. And he's Indian, Khalid Mandal.
I
I want to
see.
know why he's still on the job.
Is the president black or Indian?
Indian.
Okay. So yeah, that will kind of be putting him in a ticklish position there.
They call it ethnocracy.
Define that term for us.
It's ethnic.
All
It's
right.
a neck.
Ethnic
Ethnic.
in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they have a history of that. I mean,
Yeah.
they have never known to get. In fact, I know a gentleman who married. He was black, and he wasn't even fully black. You could see some Indian in him, but he married a straight out Indian woman and had to leave the country. The, the, the,
Mm.
the kind of pressures that he was under, no?
Yeah.
And it just goes to show. I remember seeing a Star Trek movie one time, a series, and they went when Kirk and his buddies went to a certain planet. Everybody on there were checkered. They were checkered with black and white all over.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they figure, well, there's no prejudice. There's no way one could feel like they're better than the other. But it turns out that the ones with the white, more white on the right hand side, felt that they
Mm-hmm.
were better than ones with not, with more black on the left hand side. And it's like, and it was funny. It was,
Yeah, well, I feel like the
We're a rough group, Norman. We're a rough group.
oh yeah,
I
the
believe it was,
tribal thing.
yeah, Bill Maher was a guy who said that human beings aren't nice people. The way they kind of, I found it very funny, you know what I mean? So, um, what's up with Norman these days? You retired?
Well, I
Involved in,
retired
uh,
and I was asked to come back and help out there, and it is a little well for some time now. Uh, in 1999, I was helpful in creating a development corporation, the first Jamaica Community and Urban Development Corporation.
this is in
And I
Jamaica.
know in Jamaica, Queens.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I have been serving as the vice chairman since then, since 1999.
And so you came back out of retirement to go.
I came back out of retirement from the church that was part of the creating this development corporation. I went there after working for African Medical and Research Foundation. I left them in 1995. I left there and I went to work with this church to doing some community work.
Right.
And we created this development corporation. And we have built affordable housing. We have a 174 unit building that was built. And we have partners with Cornell University and with Community Healthcare Network, which provide medical services. We did a survey in the community, and people said they needed affordable housing and they need medical services. Several other hospitals had closed. So we set about to do that. We bought a property next door to the church, um, and built this. We call it the Tree of Life. We built the Tree of Life Center on the parking lot.
Hmm.
Um, 12-story building, 174 units. Um, and I've been doing that. The church, I was hired as director of finance and administration for the church, and it's very different. The guy who hired me, the current pastor, pitched to me a community-based organization, the things he think they should be doing and how they should be serving the community. And I really like that. He's a Jamaican person who I did not know before.
Hmm.
Um, and so I've been there. This Saturday we have prostate cancer screening, free prostate cancer screening. This will be our 20th year, and we have a health fair with the prostate cancer screening.
Interesting. So this guy, you believe he's sincere in his efforts because we've seen many of these programs.
Boy, I could, I could tell you the stuff that I've seen with him. Is an unbelievable man. He's younger than me. He 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 was with me in Belize when my daughter died, and we shipped the body to Belize. He
Wow.
was with me in Belize for the funeral. He has been with me in a number of, but
He's genuinely humanitarian, you would say.
oh yes, yes, yes. He don't wear no gown or collar or nothing like that.
Uh,
He don't do that.
were you a member of the church, Norman?
Yeah, I became a.
You
that's
got
a whole.
converted,
That's a whole other story. I got hired
uh
because the church doesn't hire its members.
and then you became a
Members
member
are
of the church.
requested to volunteer,
Hmm.
and they hired me. And after I was there for a while, they want me to become a member. And I remember one young lady asked me, say, "But where are you being fed?" So you're fed spiritually
Uh,
by Reverend O'Connor. And yeah, I agreed, and so I became a member of the church.
you
I've had Bishop Wright of Belize as a guest preacher there.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. You Norman, what's your background, religious background?
Christian. I raised up in the Anglican church.
But you dabbled in the Muslim faith for a while, didn't you? You were flirting on the
I
edges of it at least.
I I approach religion as religious philosophy.
Okay.
So I have lots of interaction with Muslim, and I mean some of it gets funny. I have a daughter who I gifted. Uh, Her name is Nia, and which
Okay.
is some Muslims see it as a Muslim name. It's something out of there. It's spelled differently. But I gave her a Quran, and she was she celebrate every
Ramadan.
year.
Ramadan.
She celebrate Ramadan,
Uh-huh.
and so she was with met some Muslim people, and they wanted to know how how come you have that name and you have read the Quran? Your father gave you a Quran? Your father is a Muslim? And she tell him no.
Uh,
So it's I encourage my children, both Imani and Nia, to be curious,
independent
to
thinkers.
search, yeah,
Yeah.
to search.
Yeah.
So she was explaining to them that she grew up in a house where in the morning there was there was Mandela's poster in the kitchen, that the children of Soweto were pictures of them in my house. So, but for me, it's religious philosophy. People take religion to help them deal with life and different things they come up against. So yeah, I see myself as a Christian, but at least I am aware that Christianity was in Africa before people start to come there to convert the Africans. I mean, I have an Ethiopian Bible which has 88 books,
Hmm.
the Maccabees versions, and I have books that the Ethiopian Bible have 88 books, whereas the King James version is 66 books. So I look at that. I look at Tawida, and the interesting stories that in that Bible that the other Bibles don't have. I mean, some of the childhood of Jesus, some of the stories about the flood and how that came about, and the whole Enoch and the whole issue about the watchers who came to earth. So it's a lot of people see Christianity as this white man religion, but Christianity was in Africa way before. I
Yeah.
mean, there so much what's in the African Bible has been banned out of the other Bibles. It's very interesting when you read the stories that are in the Bible,
But
in
you
the
have
Ethiopian
any
Bible.
theories as to why this is? Um,
Well, the whole the I have a theory that some of the stuff that's in there they don't want in the Bible. Some of
eh,
it is too black,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. It would maybe cast aspersions on their own beliefs
Yeah,
and
when
what.
there's in Enoch there's a whole story of God sending angels to earth, and the angels went had sex with earthly women, and those beings were kind of big,
And giants walk the earth.
some giants, some
Uh,
giants, and they did things that God tell them not to do. This is why God needed to have the flood to wash them out, to get rid of them.
Interesting. But that sounds very much like the Bible, the story that's in the King James version. Of course, that
Yeah,
might be.
parts of it they talk about the giants too, but not.
Yeah.
I mean, this they go into a lot more. I would not be doing it justice to try and relate the whole Bible to you. It's really, for example, there's an area in Ethiopia called Lalibela that there's 11 churches carved out of the mountains. You'd have to see to believe it. It's carved out. It's part of the
11, el-
mountains.
11 churches, as in
11.
11 different denominations, or 11
No,
churches of the
11
same
churches,
denomination.
all the same Tawhid. All of them is the same
So
religion.
why did they, what's the, uh,
What's
uh,
interesting is that they say angels built it.
oh,
They
and does it
believe
look,
that.
it looks too
And
complicated for man to have, because they say,
it,
then earthlings build the pyramids either, they're now
yeah, yeah,
suggesting.
so you see that connection, and you see it in our world with the Mayans and the kind of temples that was built. You make you wonder. So for me, it's like all things are possible. Don't say nothing is impossible.
Well,
The
we have two people saying good night. Hi, Susan, and hi, Deidre, a wonderful lady who was instrumental in helping me to
Mhm,
come through my recent problems, no?
mhm,
Getting my surgery done and whatnot. I can't
mhm,
thank her enough.
yeah.
Now, man, you've been around, you've been in the church. How do you respond to a person that tells you, well, there's no God. I mean, that the man can do whatever they want to. A man is really the end of it all. And when you die, that's the end of it. You come and you live a
Mhm.
life and you go. How do you respond to somebody like that?
That's their belief. I don't try to convince them otherwise. I
Well,
too
you were
old for that.
convinced otherwise.
I
You
no.
were convinced otherwise. I'm sure somebody had to take the time for kind of lay it
No,
out to
well,
you.
from my own experiences, I've traveled, I've been in some tight situations, and I truly believe it's only by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Um, I've been places and that maybe I shouldn't be alive,
I think
and
I think many of us can tell that same story. Yeah.
so
Uh, you have to
why
give
me
thanks.
and why some other people,
Yeah. Yeah. I think now a matter of being grateful, and some
yeah,
people might be too proud to want to be grateful. They believe that they're responsible for everything they did, and then they point to luck. Maybe I had more luck than you. Uh,
yeah.
but at the end
Well,
of
see,
the day,
I don't believe in luck. I think it's blessings.
uh,
I was in a place and I was staying at a hotel, and the hotel, I was there for work. This was in East Africa, and I'm at the hotel, and the hotel entertainment for the night was limbo. I said, what the hell? I've been in Africa to go watch some limbo dancers in a hotel. So I heard some music. I heard some reggae playing in a distance. So I decided, let me walk towards the music. And I go and I find I ended up, it's like a bar. And I ended up with people there, buy me drink, I buy them drink. Very, very welcoming, very good time. And when I had enough and I decided I'm gonna leave, they said, no, 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 we're gonna take you back to the hotel. Don't walk back through. So and they took me back to the hotel. The day after, people from my job said, "Well, we came for you last night, but we couldn't find you. Where were you?" I said, "Well, I went by this Kikuyuba." And I said, "You walked down there?" I said, "Yeah." "You crazy?"
Yeah.
I don't know. I was safe. I had a very good time. I met some new friends. What can I tell you? They
So
think that
so
is the
both
dumbest
your
thing.
old friends and the new friends realized that it was a risk for you to be out there, but well, obviously you felt no fear because you weren't aware of it,
I, you
and
know,
it might be proof that maybe it is not as bad as they say it is. Uh,
exactly. And sometimes people tell you like there's animals who could sense fear, like dog. A
right.
simple thing like a dog. If a dog realizes that you're afraid, he go attack you.
Yeah. Some
Sometimes
humans
me
are
like
like
that,
that.
So it's really,
Yeah.
you know,
Humans are like that too, I believe. Nobody wants to
oh
get
yeah,
hurt.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Some
if
people
they
might have
see,
saw me walking down there and say, boy, he must be armor, he
yeah,
crazy.
it must be. No, no, you just can't go out there like that, right?
Like that.
Yeah. But
You don't know. You don't
yeah,
know.
you mentioned Africa, but you've worked extensively in Africa, haven't you? I'm sure your time of
Yeah, I worked for what's official name is the African Medical and Research Foundation, which
mm,
is the largest African-based medical organization. They're also known as the Flying Doctors of East Africa. And so I worked with them from 1980 to 1995.
yeah,
So that involved me having to go at least once a year. I'm responsible for the projects that finance through the U.S. office.
what is the impression that you've gotten from your time? And we know that for many years, the image that was portrayed by the West is that Africa is this backward continent, and they have no there's no civilization as such. Did some of your experience open your eyes to the fact that maybe this is just some kind of
I
uh,
mean, a lot of that
point,
is propaganda, A lot of
uh,
that is
trying to get
propaganda.
people turned against their own, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah, and for some
that's
it works. For some it works.
yeah. For some people, I mean, I hate the 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 image of these people. And you see, they fly around the children them and
Right,
they go,
right,
I
right,
give me
right, right.
19
Raising money
nineteen
for
dollars a month, and
yeah, yeah.
you know, um,
Showing the worst
what
there is.
they show you the periphery. That might
Yeah,
be outside in the country is the same thing. They're not going to show you homeless people lying down, as in
in,
Grand Central
in
in
Skid
New
Row.
York.
Yeah,
They don't show you that.
but
They
it's
show you the
there.
beggars, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's there. So it's what they choose to show. Um, and as a parent, it's really important for you to. I mean, I haven't been the best parent, but I remember my daughter. Well, she was in elementary school, and she said, "Dad, can I take some of your pictures to school because they're telling me about Ethiopia and how the people starving and people not have no food and they said I need to show them how developed these cities are, how developed Nairobi is. And so I make sure take the, the photographs to school, share that with the school friends because
Yes, I
what
hope
you
no.
yeah, because what you're seeing, that's done on purpose. That's done on purpose.
Yeah, my experience is that Mexico, and I was saying to somebody the other day, if I was doing okay in Mexico, I wouldn't want to go to the United States, having seen both. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because they're as well off, In fact, there's even more of a compassionate
Hmm.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
I was speaking to somebody the other day too, and you might can speak to this. They were saying that even though black people go to America, the American blacks are so programmed into believing that there's something special about them being in America that everybody else, they have all kind of names they call
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that are from other places.
Yeah.
And when it boils down to it, you find that people are the same everywhere. You have smart people and you have stupid people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you have good people, you have bad people.
I mean, I have found some very nice people in America, and I've met some very stupid people.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know,
Yeah,
they
they're
they
similar.
they're here. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I one of the interesting things with Americans is to some extent they love being delusional. Today is the 50th anniversary of the defeat of the Americans in Vietnam.
Interesting.
It's 50 years ago.
Mm.
And Americans that I talk to, I mean, I've had Belizean friends who served in Vietnam and come back as junkies and died and really had it bad because, as far as America was concerned, there were no heroes in Vietnam. They failed us. But they lost. They lost the war. Vietnam is run by Vietnamese.
Well,
And it's the same thing Afghanistan.
yeah,
They won't admit we lost in you lost in Afghanistan. So it's interesting, that you have this willingness to
yeah,
not face reality. And
yeah.
there's a lot of myths about who they are and what they do. And I mean, you meet the ugly Americans that travel and come to Belize as tourists, and you realize this is some idiots.
No, not they're not. Not everybody is as bright as they would like to think that they all are. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand over. You know, I did 20 years over there, so
Yeah,
um, I met some wonderful people. I'll tell you that. I
yeah,
met some people that would go out their way to 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 make you comfortable and do what they can to help you. Then I've
hmm,
met some real dogs, some dirty
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Um, and so what I found out is that it's the same everywhere you go, and it brings to mind often Martin Luther King's philosophy: judge not a person by the color of their
yeah,
skin,
yeah, yeah.
but by the content of their character.
Hmm.
And judge not judge him as only a bad person, but don't judge him as a good person based
Hmm.
upon any of those particulars.
Yeah,
You never
yeah.
know what you're running into, no?
There's an American writer. Um, I call him a theologian named Howard Thurman.
Hmm.
It's the guy that Martin Luther King walked around with his book a copy of Thurman's book in his pocket.
Wow.
Book called Jesus and the Disinherited. And if you should ever see that book, read it.
Grab it.
It's
Yeah.
it's
What's the hypnosis, if you will? What are the overall
what
gist of it?
is is he talking about following, yeah, that Jesus had a way of how he dealt with people and who he associated with, and this idea of servant leadership. He talks about that. As a matter of fact, he was one of the Black Americans that visited Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi reportedly said to him, you know, I have no problem with Jesus. It's those Christians I have a problem with.
Yeah, 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 yeah. How they interpret him? What's the guy's name again? The book.
Howard Thurman,
Okay,
Thurman.
Thurman.
Yeah, Thurman.
Yeah, yeah,
Thurman.
certainly. Because I'm always looking for a good book to dip into, and you have little time in your hand. There's no better way of passing it than
Jesus
finding.
and the Disinherited. Really,
Yeah,
really, really, really good in terms of Christian
yeah.
reading,
Yeah, and a funny thing because you look at the Jesus story, and I find holes in it. To be
Mhm,
honest with you, I find it hard to believe all of what they tell you, but you can see Jesus being an example of what we can be like, because the overall picture is a humble man,
mhm,
um, who did everything he could to help everybody that he could, but
mhm.
yet at the end of the day, they turned on him. And the very, it's funny, the very people who were supposed to be the chosen people
Yeah,
are the people who
but
killed him.
yeah.
So I had an argument this morning with a fellow on Facebook, and I'm like, well, really, because you're telling me about these chosen people that you have to, the Bible says you have to support them, and it doesn't matter what they do, you have to consider them right in what they're doing. And I'm like, really?
He's
Uh,
an Israeli.
he's a Belizean, Norman.
Yeah.
I, a Belizean, and I'm like, have you seen the children maimed with have you seen the babies
Crazy
that,
man.
how do you support bombing hospitals?
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me that they saw a story that the Israelis were trying to kill one guy, and there was a whole group of people around where he was, and they dropped a bomb and killed everybody,
Collateral damage.
man, woman, and child. How do
Yeah.
you justify that? How do you?
It's wrong. It's
A
wrong.
baby that has not done anything to anybody. Just
Hmm.
you can't judge that child will grow up, because they you know what they're doing now, they shoot them in their knees.
Hmm.
They don't kill them, but they maim them and make them almost paralyzed.
Hmm.
They don't care how you be able to make a living for yourself after that,
Yeah.
or feed yourself. You're just not gonna be anybody that's gonna attack us later. um the problem I have is when they justified, well, they started it. um and I was watching a comedian that had the very same point I tried to make to somebody one time. If I am fighting with you, Norman, and I don't care what you did to me,
Hmm.
uh-uh, if you pick up a baby and hold that child in front of you, you get away. You get
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
If only until you I catch you without that child in front of you. But how
Hmm.
can I justify hurting that child and then talk about, well, you're using the children as shields? Well,
Yes.
shame on you if you do, but shame on me if I then attack
It,
you and hurt those
yeah.
children. I can't see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can't see that. I can't see with that at all.
do you
Can't see with that.
you see any end in sight? Do you see them realizing, because it seems the whole world is against it, and
Yeah.
except for maybe the deep European countries, which is saying a lot, because
Hmm.
if you notice who are sending them the weapons are the pre-colonizers themselves, that
Hmm.
that have been telling us that, what, things have changed. We're not like that anymore. Calm down. Jesus said,
Yeah.
forgive them.
Yeah. During the apartheid years, Israel was arming the apartheid government.
I remember Bishop Tutu going there and returning and saying their apartheid is worse than ours. And
Bishop Tutu and Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter said the same thing.
Jimmy Carter had some interesting, if people would listen to him, some of the things he said.
Oh yeah.
Um, now there are people now who are saying, "Oh, you spend all your time condemning them, but you say nothing about Russia and Ukraine." And I'm like, well, I don't see them as the same issue. I heard Donald Trump himself say that he understands what Putin was doing because there was an agreement with NATO that they would not move 1 inch eastward.
Hmm.
But then they've moved and just took over a number of countries or placed bases in a number of the former
Yeah.
Soviet Union countries. And when it got to Ukraine, Russia said, "Well, no, I can't allow this because you circle me now, and you're
Hmm.
right in my backyard." So that's why I understand Trump was not with Ukraine on that and had threatened, in fact,
Hmm.
to stop all aid until I believe some agreement was made that he would get certain rare earth material. Yeah, that one game they
Yeah.
play, but no one is so.
Games with people lives, man.
Yeah,
That
but it's so
that is
blatant,
so.
so obvious that you wonder how come everybody's not seeing it. Am I the one that's disillusioned here, or is
No,
it?
people see it, but people said, that's the way of the world. That
Oh man, but
if you
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
that's the way of the world. That's how it is.
But
You
where
know,
where is it gonna end? Where what are the end game actually? Because it seems like with Gaza and the West Bank that they want to drive these politicians totally out. Uh,
they
um,
want they want Palestine.
yeah,
They
yeah.
say God give it to them.
But no man, and here's what gets to me because we human beings have trouble remembering what happened last year or in the last century. But you
Uh-huh.
want to tell me that 6 centuries ago, God met Abraham in an isolated village because he was out there by himself
Hmm.
and gave him all this land. You have no evidence except some paper and a parchment that only not even you can read because you know they don't speak Hebrew, they
Yeah.
they, they speak Yiddish. So
Hmm.
so they're there now and they're saying to me, that's the land of Israel. God gave them that. Uh, I was reading somewhere the other day where DNA tests were done, and many of them are not even Jews.
No.
Really,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
they're
one of the history is that Jews were not liked in Europe. They had a hard time. If you
yes,
read if you read Merchant of Venice, they hate that book, but that they were seen as greedy money grabbers
but
throughout Europe. And to deal with Europe problem with the Jews after the war, they sent them all to Palestine, and they came from all over Europe to populate Palestine. What really, to me, is strange when their propaganda is good because they have people, including Christians in Belize, who think that Jesus will return when Jerusalem becomes the capital of Israel.
yeah,
And so they support wiping out Palestinians to make that happen.
yeah,
Like God need their help. I I don't know how somebody could sit down. People in Belize who are who at least one time, not so much so now, felt threatened by Guatemala can say that's okay.
yeah, yeah. Because we're in that position where it can happen to us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If somebody say, historically this belonged to me,
yeah. And
you
that's
know.
exactly what they're saying. They have
Hmm.
been saying that this
Yeah.
is. I inherited this claim from Spain.
Hmm.
Though it amazes me that nobody has gone to Spain and said, "Wait, did you really bequeath something here to these people?" That and
Yeah.
did because we know that there were treaties like the
Yeah.
1859, and
Hmm.
we know there were conversations had at high levels.
Mm-hmm.
but there was nothing, any proof ever came out that Spain said to Guatemala, "Well, we're giving you independence, and along with what you have there is Belize."
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and then even that you'd have to question because Spain never really inhabited Belize. Uh, they weren't here, um, and
Yeah.
if you look at it, the last time they came in 1798, they were driven away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you how you see it, that and they ask all kind of questions and place doubts that there's no way they could have, and we don't see slaves fighting for their masters in that way,
Mm-hmm.
but we can see that, you know, it would have happened. And if they especially if they were thinking, they thought that because they could have seen down the road that at some point we're gonna be here as a part of this also. Our
Yeah.
children will be here. Let us, but even that is not so important as
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we have been here, you know.
Yeah.
And since then there's been talk and threats and whatnot. But no, man, I think we also, for a large part, have been brainwashed to hating Guatemala so much we don't even want to speak to them. We don't want to have a discussion. And I remember the last presentation I heard the president of Guatemala give at the UN was very hopeful, and he
Mm-hmm.
made it quite clear we're not the Guatemala we used to be. We don't want to be that. We want to settle with our neighbors, and he specifically mentioned
Mm-hmm.
Belize.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from the fact he's saying he's calling Belize a neighbor, to me is saying that, well, we recognize you as a country and we want to work this thing out.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to a couple of people afterwards, and they said, "Nah, you can't trust them people. Why would you even listen to that?" And I'm like, it gives me hope.
Yeah. I
What?
think I think that the changes that are taking place, Belizeans will have to be more realistic and realize that Guatemala is a neighbor, just like Mexico is,
Hmm.
and that we have to find a way to common ground. For example, um, Belize, and I know this has been something folks have talked about, there could be a rail link between the Pacific and the Caribbean, coming from Guatemala all the way right through to Belize. And that would move merchandise from Asia, particularly now when you see what Trump doing about tariffs. That
Yeah.
could be a way of bringing goods from
Alternative
that area
alternative resource.
all the way,
Well, you know,
all
I,
the way over to Belize is such a gateway to both the Caribbean and Central America. It's a
I,
natural. I
I
don't know.
in Mexico, I note that they have a railroad that they just built from Cancun all the way to Chetumal.
Mhm,
In fact, when you come out the plane on the airport, the train is passing right there. The
mhm,
tracks are built, and there was talk. I know discussions were held to have that railroad pass through Belize and go to Guatemala.
mhm.
Of course, you will have those who will think and a negative on that as what it could do as far as what it could, the kind of threat it can pose from Guatemala.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that Guatemala has 18 million people, I believe it is. That's a
Yes,
sizable market,
we
Norman.
have. Yeah, it's a huge market.
They can buy anything that we can produce. And I think our effort should be towards producing stuff to make us
Yeah,
wealthy and happy, as opposed to be fearmongering and rattling sabers, standing up like a crayfish in front of a charging train.
yeah.
Because
It's. I mean, we have got to look at what our options are and be realistic. We'll be realistic. we are we're in our lifetime, your lifetime, my lifetime, we have come to where today America is an empire in decline. And I was talking about Vietnam being an one of the early examples of that. Just like after the Second World War, Britain was in decline and many people didn't see it, they never want to believe it. But America is in decline. And more America is just looking inward and building walls and keeping people out. As Belizeans, we got to see where is our future. Is it with America? I mean, we have a really that peg to the American dollar
Mhm.
is something we have to look at and see how we'll be affected by that on the long term. But we have to look at where our future lies. Is it being as was described being the back America's backyard?
Mhm.
You know, are we satisfied with that? Are we? I mean, one of the things we've got to change is we cannot settle to be just consumers. We got to be producers. We got to
In-
produce something.
Indeed.
You know,
And we
we
have
got
it.
to.
We have
You
arable
have it.
land. We have
We have
fertile
the
land.
land. We have the land.
Yes,
We,
yes.
we have a people there, the Mennonites, who have been able to demonstrate how
It
you could
shows.
work and do and develop this land.
Yeah.
The Belizean need access to capital. They need help with marketing because the little I could tell you, the bigger problem for some local producers is marketing. Long ago, there was a marketing board,
Yeah.
you know, but marketing is a problem because a small producer to try go to town with your produce and sell them one by one, that is not the way. There's got to be better ways at marketing the
A better
products.
return for
So
your efforts and your
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
there's got to be better ways, and that is something that a government have to be a part of. The private, there's not the private investment locally. This problem of access to capital, you know, maybe it has changed a little, but what I saw when I worked for Royal Bank of Canada in Belize was you could get a loan to buy a refrigerator, a car, but not anything that you're going to take you more than 5 years to repay.
Which is crazy because
You know,
yeah,
most things need more than that.
correct. In particular, if something that's gonna
And then that
benefit everybody.
you're limiting it to people who getting a salary where you're going to show you're going to get your money. The bank can get its money. So you have to have a job that they can access
They're not
your
taking any
paycheck.
risk.
They're not taking any risk at all.
No.
You know, one of the things that I learned at the bank was that one of the major money maker for the bank and for the country was re-export, was goods, British goods, American goods that come to Belize and then get re-exported to Chetumal and find its way going up north in Mexico. That was, you know, the bank made its money off the foreign exchange two ways. When they converted to local currency and when they converted back to American currency to send
Yeah,
money
because
to the
get
shipper.
where you give. Yeah, indeed.
Uh,
Um, that's why
you
they're not.
know,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I mean, you know, you've got to look at you know our value system. What is it we value? We too much being consumers. You know, and the last time I was on here, I was saying I'm concerned that all the money being made from tourism is not being invested into something productive. You know, I want to see. I really would want to see. I hear the youth them that looking for land and want to farm and all of that. but I don't know where their help will come from. If they give them the land, you need to develop land. You need to have some money.
And it's not just throwing seeds and they'll grow.
No,
It entails more than that. Um,
to
I,
clear the land alone is
are they willing to put the labor into it?
yes.
Because
You
it's
know.
gonna take hard work, now, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
the farmer leaders kind of warned us. I was thinking when you made the example of, say, the Mennonites who come in and do that, and you have the Chinese come in, but they're more on the merchant side as opposed to the producing
Hmm.
side themselves. No, they're into the chicken restaurants and whatnot, and boy,
Hmm.
are they doing well. But I'm looking at the situation also in Palestine, where that one group of people that moved in there and started. So instead of the Palestinians getting help, they
Hmm.
were overpowered
Yeah.
and subdued. And if we're not careful, we certainly don't want to get in that situation, because once you get in, getting out, boys, is we see what's happening over there.
Yeah. It's
And
it's it's one of the interesting things with Belize being so underpopulated, and my worry is it will be settled by others. It other people will come in and settle, and I could see the changes from afar. And when I go Belize, you see the changes taking place in the country.
it
Um,
uh,
and unless 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 there's an identity, a strong identity of who is Belizean, because what happens if a new population come in and they just stay to themselves and they don't become part of the Belizean culture and they're allowed to do that. The Mennonites is a very interesting case study.
mhm,
I mean, it's so funny that you find some Belizeans became Mennonites and you find some Mennonites broke away from
mhm,
their thing, and
mhm.
so, but
Very few assimilate, though. They're not. We're not.
yeah,
They're
the
not doing that.
assimilation, dude. No,
It's an
and I
aberration.
and I worry about that,
Uh,
just like we talk about balkanization, I believe, with
Correct.
all the different
Yeah, the
ethnicities.
Mayas down south trying to.
Yeah,
Uh,
trying to
uh,
get
yeah.
their piece of land.
Yeah. Um, the the situation is also true though with and that's why I think what Trump is doing might be a blessing in disguise, if that more of our people who have gone abroad and the diaspora, if you will, they would be the group that would settle. But I think the challenge will be to come and resettle, if you will, or whatever that is,
Hmm.
um, and without a superiority complex, because that enters
that's
to,
another that's another disease.
yeah, man. As well, equal animals, but you being more
Yeah,
equal than me,
yeah, yeah,
because of the
yeah.
fact that you have had more exposure than me.
Animal Farm.
Yeah, it.
Orwell.
I don't know now, man. But the answers, I don't know where we're going to get the answers, but we have to get them, and we have to
Yeah,
do what's
we're
wrong.
we have to get them. I mean, I've talked to some young people in Belize who seem to have no interest in living in America. The ones them that come out to study and
Right.
looking forward of being back in Belize is how do we give them the support that they need? Because I have, I mean, some really brilliant. Most recently, um, I was reading someone who was reminding the Americans that the brain of America were all immigrants. That most of what has taken place in Silicon Valley is is Indian and Chinese immigrants
Hmm.
that helped to create this new wealth. You know,
So the very immigrants that they're trying to get rid of are the ones who have put them in the position they are.
put them in a position. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the irony that the ones them that came after World War and came from Europe, the brain them, the one them that come like there are more Ghanaian doctors in America than in Ghana.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we
and again,
talk about health services.
yeah, yeah. But that's why, again, it might be a blessing in disguise if Trump succeeds with his plan to send immigrants out of America. Um, Now, he's saying one thing, but it seems the people that are carrying out his wishes aren't exactly worried about what he's saying. He's saying, well, we only want to get rid of the ones who are bad, who are
The
giving
bad ones.
trouble.
Them.
But the
Yeah.
ones who are implementing the policy, the ones who are on the ground,
Hmm.
they're going after everybody. Because,
Oh yeah.
understand, I went into a factory looking for one person and came out with 10.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, which is a thing about power. You know, some people feel powerful. You know, you find it with police officers. Um, I remember we used to laugh about we said Garvey idea of the psyche of black man was he put a belt on them like what the British did, the type of uniform and its plumed hat. He did the same thing, that people feel powerful with the costume they wear.
that's interesting because the picture I imagine I'm seeing of Garvey had that hat with the
Oh
plume
yeah,
on it.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah.
It's-
You know, it's there's a thing about power and when you empowering people, you could just settle for them little dressing, or you could try really empower them by providing the things they need, like
Yeah,
capital, access to capital, the education, the training that they need.
but
But you look for the easy part. I mean,
yeah. The whole story about giving them a fish or teaching them how to fish,
exactly,
so that fish will
exactly.
feed them for a day, but once they
Hmm.
learn how to fish, they can feed themselves for a lifetime. And
Yeah,
and I think that one profound story. Uh, uh,
yeah, yeah.
that
One of the things them that earlier we talked about, what I liked about Islam is that period that it went through the early with the Nation of Islam, in that encourage people to be self-employed. You know, I was impressed with Justice and Shabazz for the farming they were doing at More Tomorrow.
yeah,
It was against some big odds, but that that was wonderful. A good try. It never really caught a fire. I'm not even sure what's going on in More Tomorrow now. I know I have friends out in California telling me they want to put up a statue of Shabazz out in More
yeah,
Tomorrow, but I want to hear who can provide the financing that is needed by farmers in More Tomorrow. Who gonna help them with the marketing? You know, um, some time ago, this is a long time ago. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I lived in Jamaica. I went to school in Jamaica. But what
mhm,
I remembered when the hotels were ordering flowers from abroad to put in the hotels, and that is kind of crazy. I don't know what all the hotels in Belize are ordering. Do they get? their vegetables from some local producer? Do they get, where they get their stuff from? I mean, this is something that I'd be interested in just to know
But Norman,
because
that's why we hire. That's why we elect a government, though, isn't it? That those things are looked after. And I always wondered because I remember the story with Williamson. I always bring that up.
oh yeah, yeah,
They had a sewing factory going. They
hmm
did teach people how to sew. Many of
hmm
the people in management positions were Belizeans. It's
yeah,
just the bosses would come and go. Yet when they left, everything collapsed. I
hmm
mean, couldn't you have bought? The government could have said, you know what, we are buying 4 or 5 machines,
yeah,
and our people are going to start sewing, even if we have people that use school uniforms, where the police
hmm
use uniforms. Now we have the Coast Guard and the Army. There are many offices,
yeah,
banks, all of them use uniforms, and these were being sold by the people at Williamson. Yet when they moved, Norman, they took not only the equipment, but they took all the building that the stuff was in that they were working in. How could you allow that and not at least try to say, well, let us keep this continuing? I it boggles the mind. Who gave these concessions? Who allowed them to be able to do that? Did nobody object and rebel? So
I, I don't think so.
yeah, and I don't know if there are people still who can sew. It'll have to be maybe the ones who were working there. That there were quite a few ladies there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they were able to sew. They could have done that on by themselves had we had the foresight, um, and given them the support they needed. I
yeah,
don't know. We have to do better, of course.
hmm
We have to do, and we have to expect more from those who we elect to do that job for us, because certainly everybody can't do it, but the leaders are the ones who set the trend, who put
hmm
in place the proper infrastructure to protect the interests of the people, not just to build a big house and get ready for retirement so you can enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Sad story. Um,
Well, it's interesting, I remember the guys, ahead of me that came back from studying, came back to Belize and spent their hours at what was then called Newton Club
mhm.
at a tennis court. Um, and but Newtown fell into disarray, which which has been an issue in our country, in that we don't seem to know how to build institutions and maintain the institutions. They collapse. We have membership clubs that just disappear.
We
We
look at
have
Liberty Hall.
Liberty Hall, we have, I mean, I'm watching the federations, the sports federations. Uh, this most recent one, whether Mr. Slusher is being sidelined or not, I don't know enough about it. But it's very interesting that it's somehow like it's not rooted, that it get blown in the wind so easily. And you see other people come along and play around with the same thing, but we don't. And I mean, we see it now with a political party, with UDP, who, it's like, guys,
Yeah, hold it
yeah, I,
together, right?
yeah, yeah, come on, get it together, do something.
Yeah, you mentioned Coach Slusher,
hmm
and to his credit, he's going his own way, if you will. I don't know. The last time I spoke to him, it seems like he's still involved in trying to
Mhm.
work with the national team, but they brought in two Mexican
Mexican, yeah.
coaches. I didn't ask him, and I really wanted to. If they pose a threat to him, if he believes that they're really, but I believe he can learn from them because certainly have different infrastructures and structures in place, no?
Hmm.
But he is now he's gonna do as we speak, and let me put the plug in here for this. Tomorrow, he and this gentleman Wayne Moody, Wayne is doing. This is the third
I,
year
s-
he's
I
done
see.
some.
I see. They will be at the park.
Correct.
Five
Yes.
by five. Yeah,
Oh
that's
man. I
interesting.
and you know now, man, I want part of a bigger plan. And I heard I was impressed with Charlie Slusher. He was on Channel 5 this morning, and Wayne Moody. Wayne
Hmm.
Moody almost made a believer of me then because I've been a bit skeptical of him um, and what he does as a life coach, no? But
Hmm.
he seems to have some wisdom. He
Okay.
has things to impart that I believe can help a person because when you sit and think about it, and he was talking about we being the first floor, that is the foundation for the others to build on
Hmm.
and go higher. And Charlie Slusher has suggested that he wants to be a part of this, and it's a plan that I've had but I was wondering how I could get it off of the ground.
Hmm.
But they came in, and as is usually what is needed to happen, um, injection infusion, if you will, come in and say, you know what, and this is a good idea. Let's try this because I
Hmm.
think a five aside, there are many places in New York, in Belize, where you have empty lots. I mean, you have them all over the city, just
Yeah. Yeah.
being sitting there. I don't know if some dumb. And in fact, I've heard that many of them don't even pay taxes, so the taxes are piled up, and the
Uh-huh.
government doesn't know what to do.
Yep.
Um, I'm saying, why don't we? If there ever was a good reason for
Hmm.
acquiring um, land for public purpose, this
Hmm.
has to be. Look at these children in these pictures, Norman.
Hmm.
There are many of them. They have talent. Credit to Pilaf working with the guys over there in Yabra. I
Hmm.
worked with him for a while there. But where's the vision? How are we gonna move them from one step to the other? Number one, and when are we gonna develop them from bottom there to where
Hmm.
we can use them when they get up top to represent us in these
Hmm.
international competitions? I
It 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 it's it's something that need to happen. I think that we have not integrated sports into our educational system. You know,
uh,
sports is something that provide discipline, provide fitness of the body and mind, and you know, and I've seen other countries. I guess the one that stands out is Jamaica. Every year there's the pen relays. The pen relays attract young people, mainly it's relay teams, attract young people. One group went from Belize, a school from Dangriga. The coach was a guy from St. Vincent that he takes kids from St. Vincent and he took some kids from Dangriga.
mhm,
But what happens at pen relays is they're scouts. And this is how some of these kids end up in college here. And some of them, yeah, maybe all of them don't become top tier professional players. Some do. But many become coaches. Many become, play major roles in sports.
well, even become better human beings as a
I,
consequence.
exactly. And I mean, I know Jamaican friends, you end up having to find place for these kids to stay once they come to America, and they need transportation to get America. Nobody paying for it, somebody got to get up and decide to do it.
Yeah.
Um, I was glad. I was glad the guy from St. Vincent took some kids from Belize. One of the guys that work with the team in St. Vincent is my nephew, and so I became familiar what they were doing.
Hmm.
But we don't have that push because when you look on professional soccer in the United States, the early people who was recruited, they was recruited from the Caribbean and from Africa and built the North American Soccer League.
Until their own people started taking
It's
interest in it.
yes,
Uh, 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 yeah.
that I mean that's that's how you make it happen. You have to want to have it happen
And put the
and
put the infrastructure in place. Make it, build it in order
build
that they
it.
might come.
You have to build it. You
Yeah.
have to build it, man. I'm telling you this.
But Norman, I've watched these children and there's raw talent. But the thing is that it requires two sides. It
Hmm.
requires those who will pull them and put the whatever infrastructure is in place, and those who will capitalize on it
Hmm.
and make the effort, put in the work necessary. And many times we forget that aspect, because if you can make all the opportunity you want available, if the person is like the horse and the
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
you get a pool
Yeah,
of water.
the I heard some of the complaints about a lot of our soccer players. They have their regular 9 to 5. If they get hurt, they probably on their own. Um, they're not paid well to be representing the country. I mean, there's we treat our athletes bad. We treat our musicians bad. You know, we don't provide the support that's needed. I've always applauded you for what you did with the park. One of the craziness we've had to deal with is with politicians who always looking for a lot to give to somebody from their thing. So when the the planners plan a community and include the social infrastructure, include space for a park, include space for other social amenities.
Yeah.
What happens is the politician come along and he subdivide those spaces because he need lots.
You
Because
know,
somehow we not seem to be able to find lots and land for our people. When you look at
I
people just squatting, man.
I was speaking to a politician from the other party actually about this very lot next door, and she says, "Well, you better be careful, because they're gonna come and take it."
Yeah.
And I said, "Boy, I don't think right now the way the community feels about this little park, I don't see that requiring much of a fight at all." But I'm getting a
Yeah.
story now, man, because there's another little park I'm trying to develop
Mhm.
on George Street. George
Okay.
Street and Rocky Road. If there's
Okay.
ever a neighborhood that needs
Needs
such a
it.
park, that
Yeah.
is it. So
Mhm.
I have a guy that's in New York who owns that piece of lot, and I've been taking care of it for him. But
Mhm.
I have been trying to convince him, you know what? Let's put a park there. And I said, well, name it after your grandmother who had left the place, no?
Mhm.
And he was telling me, why I want to return and live in Belize. And I'm ready to do that. I don't want Bill. I said, but that neighborhood, I know where to go on.
Mhm.
I said, well, that property there would be better served as a park and maybe we can find you something somewhere else.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, there's a friend of mine that lives on the north side that has he has his house, but beside him there's an open lot that I
Mhm.
believe it was a Chinese person that bought it and abandoned it. You know, when China was reverting back to Hong Kong was reverting back to China, a lot of the Chinese left, and some came to Belize and bought up properties. And when they realized it wasn't going to be as bad as they thought it would be, they
Mhm.
either returned or some went to the States and
Mhm.
abandoned. To them, now piece of land and pay some politician and leave money fund. They all right. So this gentleman had already been doing all the legwork to try to get the information on it. He was trying to get it for himself. Then he
Mhm.
said to me, when he became aware of my plan, he said, "Well, maybe you could see what we could do. Maybe you could get this one. I've already done all the research, find out who owned
Mhm.
it, what that." Lo and behold, there's a politician of the current party that decided she wanted that piece of land. And when I went in and I was in discussion with the mayor and even his city administration to try to make this happen.
Mhm.
And then they spoke to the guy downstairs in charge of the records and whatnot. They say, you know what? This person has put liens on it. This person put down a lien money and they've decided to give it to her. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing. This is a person already give lots of favors, ambassadorship, if you will.
Mhm.
Let me put it that
Mhm.
way. You come on, man. I mean, you can give her a piece of land somewhere else.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
work was done on this. The purpose, you can't think of a better purpose. A
Mhm.
park, and I'm saying to them, listen, Uno as the city and as the political party in power won't have to do anything. I will
Mhm.
go out and I have friends in position that don't mind helping, which is how I got this developed because I got
Mhm.
a lot of help. I always tell
Mhm.
people I feel guilty when they say, G Mike, I like what you do because at the end of the day I didn't do much.
Yeah.
I basically sat and watched it happen,
Mhm.
pulled a few strings and looked at a few areas and facilitated but nothing that I can tell you, Norman, was so strenuous that it made me lose sleep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it happened, you see, and I think it happened because it was supposed to happen.
Mhm.
They won't even know, and I wanted to go back in and see if I could convince them that, come on, man, and I must go get this individual here another piece of land in order to make this happen
Yeah,
because
man.
it's worthwhile. If
Mhm.
if the children have an era like that, in particular a troubled era, they go in there and broke on sweat, play all day, get
Mhm.
so tired that they go home and go sleep now, man.
Yep.
But when they're just sitting around in a house bottom or even on the street side, crushing weed in on the palm of their hand,
Mhm.
watching the elder ones talk about all the who they going to hurt and who what they could do for make little money and whatnot, that the influence that you don't want them to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
What is so difficult? That if you want to talk about let it make sense, that is making it make sense.
Yeah, man.
Yeah? So I
Well, they have to have the vision, They have to have the vision. They have to.
and where
They
there's no
don't have
vision,
the
the people
vision.
perish. You remember
Exactly.
where did I
Exactly.
see that? There was a big sign, I believe it was in LA somewhere. Where there's
Yeah.
no vision,
It's biblical.
it is, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see it being biblical, yeah, because it's profound, it's true.
Yeah.
Where there's no vision, the people perish.
First.
And so I
Yeah,
would
man.
hope that, and I try to catch their ear. Um, I, I'm not, I'm not a golden boy as such of the politicians where they will pay much attention to me, no.
Hmm.
But I would like to catch their ear, yeah, with this um, plan and try to show them the common sense of it.
Well, I mean, if they look at it as as an issue of policy, you know, maybe they would get the vision. This has
I
to be a policy. You've got to create the social.
infrastructure.
Yeah, this is where your kids gonna gather.
Uh,
This is where they're gonna get some discipline. This is where they're gonna get healthy exercise,
I,
and this is where they feel part of a community. You know.
I have found, Norman, that human beings require two things. One is to socialize, communicate like we're doing here, share different stories and ideas and plans and whatnot. And the next one is to compete. Can we
Yeah.
compete with one another in every aspect of life? You
Hmm.
and one guy see the same girl on the like. There's a competition there.
Hmm.
You're going for a job. There's a competition there. Even the on the streets, one gang against the other gang is competition. So
Hmm.
if we can create an environment with a constructive type of
It's healthy.
healthy competition,
Mhm.
it might solve the need of society, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, some of the local news, of course, pig killer man, Keels Point. Did you see that story? Uh,
I saw that story.
boy,
My wife was telling me that she'd never heard about a
well,
pig attack. Yeah, they could.
man, but they a while though because now they kill the pig,
Yeah.
but they're saying the pig has a history of attacking
Attack
people
people.
and
Yeah.
acting. They take too long for kill the pig. They kill pig. They kill you before you kill them. Uh,
So we may come out of that pig long
long
time.
time, long time. You know, people want pig foot and pigtail. No,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that is a strange story. That one was like,
it's strange and but it goes to show. But out in the rural community,
but
right? So
it looked like the man get an artery or something ripped. I mean, the blood,
yeah, and he
the
bled to
amount
death,
of blood.
something
Yeah.
like that. But pigs
That's
are.
a,
And again, it's biblical too, you know, God, the pig in the Bible and whatnot, and God threw the demon into the pigs.
yeah.
But there were animal, um, and they say they eat anything. So if
Hmm.
him is stay there, the pig may eat her, you know,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
there were animal that just not got no kind of, he know the word about nothing.
Yeah.
He look for get fed.
Yeah.
So, but I hope the people there, um, I hope they, well, they could get over it and deal with it, no? Because
Yeah.
you don't want to go out and kill everybody pig right now.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, I listened to the wife talking about, trying to imagine what her life will be like without
yeah,
this man or
the
without if
breadwinner.
he was the breadwinner.
Uh,
It's like Jesus Christ.
I don't know. I imagine you could be you could be what we call a freak animal accident. Apparently he was drinking though, and was attacking the pig or trying some kind of self defense thing there that didn't work. No.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and it sounds like he's a jovial guy. He's a guy that really, you know, take life
yeah.
with a good laugh, enjoy a good laugh.
Anyway, yeah. Rough situation there. And the local scene again. We changed commissioner of police today.
Hmm.
Um, this guy, Dr. Richard. Um, wait, yeah, Richard Rosado.
Hmm.
I know him actually, and I think he will be a good commissioner. But I also think that Chester was the type of commissioner you needed for the times we're going through. Um,
Hmm.
he had a bit of aggressiveness to him, a fearlessness that is required. Now we don't know how Rosado is going to be until we see him perform. No,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Maybe tack and diplomacy is going to be better than a heavy stick approach that
Hmm.
Chester applied. I
Yes.
do know that, well, we're going to miss Chester on the news, and Chester is probably going to miss talking to us on the news.
But
Um,
it's see some skill, some talent that Chester have is being wasted at traffic.
well, that I think that, and the experience, because he
Yeah.
certainly has, and he's young enough to still be commissioner.
Hmm.
Um, the challenge would have been to keep Chester a little more quiet than he was, because he had a love affair with the microphone.
With media.
Yeah, yeah, and the media will get you in trouble. They will
Yeah.
set you up, and you thinking he always felt that he and Jules were friends, and I mean the lengths that Jules went through to even embarrass him.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he handled it and came through. But
Hmm.
I'm not sure that I'm like you. I think that there's a waste of the skills that he has developed over time,
Hmm.
and maybe they could have let him serve his time out. Uh, though, I mean, the police department being the way it is, there's a push from the bottom moving up. See,
Yeah.
so you need to make room for for that ascension, if you will, in the ranks.
But there's no teaching position within
Well, certainly there
the
is,
police,
because you have the police training school,
police training
and he
school.
certainly could go up there and head that. And that one
Hmm.
good. That one good thought.
Yeah.
Um, then again, Norman, see the way it works in the political circles. You don't know the full story. We don't know why it is happening. We don't know why the better fit was not
Mhm.
employed for him as such. It would be good if we maybe I should go in and ask some questions. We're
Yeah,
thinking
it
that.
just seemed like to me, it's a good talent. He wouldn't be in front of the microphone as much at a training school.
Yeah, he might not be
Yeah,
happy about that, but then you have to live with it, no?
you'd have to
Uh,
live with it.
yeah, because they certainly need training.
Yeah.
We see another incident with the former era representative from Khaled. I know
I
I know
saw, I
that will
saw that.
probably
It
give you a
just,
laugh, right?
yeah, I saw that, and I
Yeah.
said,
What a hilarious scenario. Um, I don't know. He seemed inebriated to me. I think he had a few more, and his excuse was, well, I'd stopped drinking. Everybody knew I stopped drinking. I don't know if you look at that video, he had been drinking. Um, he has his love affair is with the bottle.
hmm,
And in his position as a politician, I think he has been caught too many times in that awkward position of being having had one too many
hmm.
to drink. So
Yeah,
I
that's
not a good
that's
place for a politician to be.
no, 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 not at
Yeah.
all, not
Did you
at all.
ever did you ever think about running for politics? You were making some waves in Belize at one time,
With me, I don't think I have the stomach for it. I can't get up and lie easily.
and it requires that, doesn't it?
It requires that.
Yeah.
It
Um,
requires that.
and the unfortunate thing is that some people demand to be lied to. The only way the only way they're happy is to lie to them. So
Yeah.
the, that's the other side of that coin. Um, but I think you would have made. In fact, I think people like yourself who don't have the stomach would be the ones that who would make the good politicians. And then again,
I know, no, I know that I don't. I know that I don't.
yeah,
Um, I mean, I've seen corruption at, at levels that I don't know how friends of the corrupt person just don't say anything. I, s- I mean, we have corruption in Belize, but we don't have some corruption like they have in Africa. There's a
Is it
guy.
that bad?
It's bad. It's bad, bad. It's I say a guy who got arrested, who got taken to court over corruption. But what was brought in court was this man have the fabric for his clothes made in England, his pinstripe suit, and this pinstripe was really his initial through the whole suit. You don't see that. I mean, it's so neat. It just looked like a line, but it's an initial. And I'm saying, like, with all the hunger, with all the need,
Right, right. You
that
spending,
is where
yeah,
you spend your money on.
yeah, yeah.
You know, like,
And want a raise. Want a raise. I want to go to the next the next pertinent story out there about the unions are getting ready to strike, it seems.
yeah.
They're murmuring.
Hmm.
And I think they have a point. The government has given the CEOs raises. No
And
man
my
have,
friend, the secretary.
but I've long held the opinion that the CEOs are now in a redundant position.
Yeah.
Um, the, the, the CEOs replace
Permanent
the PS
secretaries.
permanent secretaries who
Yeah.
came up through the ranks. Some of
Right.
them entered as a messenger and
Hmm.
got promoted, showing a couple of make that motorcycle pass. I hate them with a passion now, man. And I want to
Yeah.
run down the street with a piece of stick and just lash. But anyway, it seems so everybody else doesn't care.
Hmm.
So, well, yeah, when funny thing when you see something that you think is totally out of place and everybody else is all right with it, what do?
Hmm.
Um, I guess you just have to grin and beer, no? So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think the CEOs and and that goes back to what you're saying. At a time like this where we see belt tightening coming,
Hmm.
because we see what the effects of the tariff on everybody. We see the price of goods keep going up. So
Yeah.
you're gonna give the CEOs who already have a redundant position, because all they do, they're the watchdog for the minister. And
Hmm.
Joe, a
Hmm.
farmer, he didn't show up tonight, and he was supposed to be with us, but he was telling us that the CEO has to be there to ensure that the policies of the minister is carried
Hmm.
out.
Hmm.
And I'm saying, but I thought that's what the PS was doing. Um, and but they weren't doing it to please the minister as such. They were doing it, and they had the ability to give him advice as to whether what he was trying to implement would work or not, because they've
Hmm.
been there long enough. But that why then would you just take a political appointee, um, money that we don't have, that like that money that guy put that signature in his suit? I'm
Yeah.
sure they didn't have the money for that when you look at the overall scheme of things, no?
Hmm.
So I don't know. You remember the day of the PS? What was your opinion?
To me, what I see, and I could stand corrected. I speak every once in a while to some union people in BD, but what happened, and it happened within the party. Within the party, what happened is the party came up with with the union, and it was, if you remember the union, the party can help you get a job at a waterfront, you know. But that's how you got jobs in town. That's how the politician can help you. When that changed with independence,
Mm,
when that changed, the way you get job is to try and get you in the civil service. And so they had to create They had to create this position
Position,
to
yeah.
give it to the people that they wanted to get jobs. My father was the chairman of the Public Service Commission, and so I'm aware of the criticism the Public Service Commission that only certain families get the position and the rest of that. So, but it seems that when the base of the party stopped being a union, they had to find jobs to their people, their loyal people, and this is how you end up with CEOs.
But you say the party, because up to independence there was only one party, so to speak, the party that was in power all
Oh
that
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so that's interesting. Now you
yeah.
have
The thing is, any of the political parties would have gone through that. It happened throughout the Caribbean, It's not just
it's
Belize.
not unique to Belize.
It's not unique. In the
Yeah,
Caribbean, I call it doctor politics.
it's a
At some
patronage
point,
system, right?
at some point, they figure, oh, you have to be college educated and you have to have your PhD to be in the leadership of the party. To some extent, Belize had it different. We had Mr. Golson, who probably was a man with vision.
But not much formal education.
Yeah, I mean, he became Catholic because he thought that would be helpful.
He did become a
Because
lawyer eventually, right?
oh yeah, he became a lawyer eventually.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting man. Very interesting.
Did you know him personally, Norman?
Oh
Uh huh.
yeah, yeah.
Did you
I,
did you find him sincere in his efforts?
I find him sincere, but I think he tricky too.
Yeah. Well, he's a politician, right?
Yeah, I find him very sincere.
Did
Uh,
Did you know
when I
George
what?
Price? Go,
Pardon me?
now let me finish with Ghost. Now let me go on. You're getting
What
ready to tell us that.
happened with when UDP came into government in I think it was 85,
84, yeah.
84, 85. Um, Mr. Goldstein, well, even before that, Mr. Goldstein, I worked with him to understand how the voters list were made. Because people used to complain, oh, the government, the voters list come out too late, we couldn't campaign,
Hmm.
which was a really silly excuse because each party gets to appoint a scrutinizer, I think the person was called, to go around with the person that is making the list. So you can make your list while you go around house to house and you get a little change. The truth is, they took the change and never go do the job. So they weren't able to create their own list. Because you could have a list before the government put out the official list
Right.
because you're there making.
On the ground.
So yeah, so I knew Mr. Golson. I have members of my family that really adored Mr. Golson. Mr. Golson lived in a Fairweather house behind Wesley Church.
Okay. Yeah.
Belonged to belonged to Nadia Catus and her sister. They inherited that house, but that's where Golson lived. Anyway, when Golson came came was a minister in the UDP government. Uh, he talked to me about some things he wanted to do within the not-for-profit world, NGOs, and all that he wanted to do, and how he needed help in doing some of this. And it was the decade of the women. It was the end of the decade of the women, and there was a big gathering in Kenya to decade of the women.
Hmm.
So Mr. Golson, I encouraged him to make the trip, but use the trip to meet the donor agencies meet them. Um, Organized a conference at NYU for Belizean organizations to meet
Mhm.
with Mr. Golson and talk about how the diaspora could be involved in this new process that he came up with. Mr. Golson stayed with friends of mine. I don't, you know, Marcel Catus. That's who Mr. Golson stayed with when he came
Okay.
up, and just some interested change of events because I got a call. I don't know if anybody has ever talked about this before, but I got a call telling me that Mr. Golson will not be the head of the delegation going to Kenya. It will be Mrs. Esquivel.
Hmm.
Mr. Golson should not proceed to Kenya. Anyway, me being who I am, I contact the staff members of the organization I worked with who were also involved in this conference to extend our courtesies to Mr. Golson. He will still be coming.
Mhm.
And Mr. Golson went ahead. Bert Tucker left from Lusaka and went to Kenya to be there with Mr. Golson. And Bert is not around to tell you about some of the antics that went on behind that. But you had a number of people that were part of the delegation that went. But on his way back was when we had the conference at NYU. Um, and a couple of things I discovered. One is the Belizean organization have no memberships. It's so ad hoc. You know, I asked people, different organizations that I got invited, that if they could give them membership list, we've got to build upon this to see how people could participate. Now, Mr. Golson, when I say tricky, Mr. Golson asked me if I could go to LA and do the same thing. And I said, Mr. Golson, there's Belizeans in LA. You know, it's, it would be arrogance on my part to go
Yeah,
to LA to try organize. There are people there.
get them
I said,
involved.
there's Roland York, there's people in Chicago, any one of the states them you want to do this. I won't go. I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that. That's not how you build something. You're not going. I'm not going to be a star. You're not going. I'm not suffering from that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. But
Was he upset at that decision on your part?
no, he wasn't. He wasn't upset. He got
Or not
somebody else to
visibly
do it.
upset?
He got somebody else to do it.
Uh,
He got Eddie Lang, who was my neighbor, who was married to my cousin.
Always, also a New Yorker, though, right? At that
Well,
point.
initially, Eddie was at Howard University,
Uh,
you know, but he had served. He had been at Howard. He became ambassador to the United States, and for the conference in New York, we invited, and by we it included a number of people. I had one of the work that we had to do for Mr. Golson is to look at see what money is available funding for Belize, and we look within the UN system. Bert was critical in helping to do that. I have a whole collected it and put it in a book form. These are the organized. This is the kind of money that's available. Top 10 that you've heard Nuri talk about a lot. How you can get your Belizeans involved in this. So what what my problem, what I warned against, I said, Mr. Golson, if you're going to try to create a vehicle that will be an arm, a UDP, it's going to fail. It cannot be an arm. It has to be independent to go beyond the 5 years that you're going
Serve the
to
entire
be
people.
there. Yeah, it has to. Yeah, it has to be better than that. It, and part of it is that there's a difference in. I really believe that in terms of organizing and doing. I mean, some of it I do right now in community organizing. You have to you have to find people who are willing to work together, and what the issues are. What's the issues with Belizeans abroad?
But,
You
but you
know,
sound like you were almost neutral. The name Fairweather now is synonymous with the NIP and the opposition party, but you seem to have been outside of that mold.
let, let, one of the things I learned early, what people think of me is none of my business. You know, they're people who your name whether that mean you know opposition, you know
NIP,
NIP, yeah, you
UDP.
know
Yeah.
that. But I've gone through my life with
So you
people.
basically you can think that if you want, but I
You
know.
take that if you want. You
Yeah.
could do that. I'm not gonna try to convince you of who I am. You could try and get to know me,
Tell
you
me,
know. But
Sonny, it was an interesting point that you made there with Cathy Esquivel being made the
head of
head of that
delegation,
delegation.
yeah.
How did Mr. Wilson see that? Because certainly he must have been I felt slighted.
We talk about it, but he
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 went
was
along.
he was appreciative of the crowd who had gotten around him to give him the support,
But
and
but
it
but
was
Norman,
it
they would
was
not.
it was it. My Kenyan friend said to me, Norman, how is it a Jewish woman represent Belizean women?
Yeah, yeah.
You
A
know, so
white
like,
woman.
yeah, and some of the people that there's a farmer from Rockstone Pond named Regina. Can't remember Regina's last name. She went too. She went. Cynthia Ellis went. Um, Cynthia is around. Cynthia could tell some of the stories from that. She was there in Kenya. I
Uh,
mean, it was really interesting because Mr. Golson's permanent secretary was one Eric Fairweather, and his what they call it, his ADC was was another Fairweather. So my Kenyan people said, "Is this the Fairweather minister?" Oh,
well, if you had gotten involved, I imagine it may make it even more fair with a heavy. You know.
Well, I asked them to take care of him, and they did. They really treated him royally. That he
How
didn't.
did they and again? Well, you might have answered that, but did they react and saying, "Well, here's a we were looking for a delegation of blacks or colored people because we know we're a country in that region that is comprised of that, but here they come now being led by this white woman."
Yeah, and really, there was a vote for something about Palestine that was coming up. That they wanted to be sure how Belize would vote.
And well, I can't expect that with her at the head of the delegation that we would have been
Yeah.
too opposed to anything.
I mean, it's so odd because the person working at the Belize mission at the time was Miss Rogers, Ronnie, what's her name? Rhonda, um, Minister Raja's daughter.
Okay, and Linda
She
Raja's
was
daughter.
she was the person who called me to tell me that because she was there first as a PUP appointee, but
Yeah.
she remained there after UDP got in, and she called and said, "Boy," I said, "Tell Mr. Goldsey, I reached Mr. Golson." Yeah, yeah. I had a guy named McNabb, a lawyer who is out in California. He was very helpful in setting up the conference. His girlfriend was a law student at NYU. That's how we got the use of the place.
Did we come out ahead in that exercise there, or were we the butt of a joke? Did we fail at what we were hoping to achieve?
No, there was a lot of money being thrown around for women organizations. There was a whole 10-year period.
And we got our share, did we?
Belize got its share. Whether there's some argument that ended up in the use of the money in one grant that you know when when you're dealing with the truth, it's you could always win. One of the mistakes Belizean organizations make, the NGOs in particular, everybody want a trip. You got something come up there, you could go get a trip. However, there's expenses associated with that trip. You got to account for it. When you get a grant money, you make sure that it's written in the proposal how you're going to spend the money. You can't take the money and start to pick and you need a trip, but when you make a trip, you have expenses. You have to be upfront about things like that. You can't pick on the money and use the money in ways that it cannot be used. So although it may seem why they're dishonest, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just they don't know how to
How
do
to
it,
manage it?
how to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really I'll tell you another interesting story, which is about understanding when you're getting money from, like how the US government just won't give Belize how much, 100 and what million?
125 million, yeah.
125 million. I've worked with contracts from World Bank, from USAID, and I could tell you what some of these aid, some of this money is for market penetration. It's not to help nobody. Ask ask Haiti how much money they actually got in Haiti.
Hmm.
Ask the war in all this money that have gone to fight this war against Russia. The money went to some people who build the planes and the bombs and so on.
So
That's where it went
it
to.
comes right back to the original
It
source.
to travel money that I use, grant money, to travel to Africa, I have to take an American flagship or else they disallow it. You won't get reimbursed. A lot of these things you got to spend the money first.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
So although British Air and there was a plane line called Sabina, so I could get 50% discount on those airlines, mainly because of the organization I work for. That they were able to get 50%.
But they wouldn't let you fly there.
No, because it's US taxpayers' dollars.
Uh,
They want you to buy American vehicles. Although if you're working in East Africa, it's Land Rovers. They don't want you to do that. The medicines, you may get cheaper medicine in India or East Europe No, they're not interested in saving money. This is a point that in training project accountants, telling them it's not about saving money. Do you understand? It's about we're gonna introduce some American vehicles. And if you buy American vehicles, then you got to buy American vehicle parts. And we're gonna displace the Land Rovers. I mean, it's
So
about
this, so,
market penetration. It's
so,
not about helping nobody.
so this didn't just start with Trump then. This is a policy that's been in
No,
place.
no, no. This is a policy in place. As you know, in when UDP came back in, UDP came back in, and they tried to give what's his name? They were blackballing him. That had a Belize Airlines Limited.
Oh, wasn't that Aikman? Was it Aikman?
Aikman.
Uh-huh.
I was in Belize. They had offered me a job. I was in Belize. I was trying to decide. My job was transferring me to Kenya. Within my family, my mother, most of all, they didn't like that move. But that's too far. So Belize got a big grant on infrastructure development where they put in sidewalks and change street sign, and eventually they change the canal side and make traffic flow. They got this grant. Now, that's a grant. This came from the World Bank.
A soft loan at least.
Yeah, Belize had to come up with some money too.
Uh-huh.
So they asked me to sit down and look on this, and because World Bank's sending some people in to have a look at how they're managing this thing, UDP just come in. PUP had negotiated it. UDP got it, and I said, well, it's okay. I'm here. How I gonna get paid? You know. And so I asked for the budget so I could look on the budget and see how this thing paid. So there's a lot of problem in finding a budget. I end up having to read the narrative to the proposal. And the proposal had $1 million budgeted for consultant and training. But then when I read in the document, the World Bank already have assigned 3 consultants. One is an expert on traffic flow, another one something about environment, and the environment one had to do with cruise ships coming and how they dump their stuff. I try to remember the other one, but 3 people.
So the money was spent.
They getting 900,000 of that million. 3 people.
The money was done.
And 100,000 to train something to be called tourist police. Because this big idea is that old Belize will become a destination in the tourists. They're going to put boardwalks along the riverside from Bridgefoot to Fort Point.
I heard that
and
plan,
from the other side to Government House. You know, they give me I still do maps on how it's going to be laid out. So when you think you're going to get in the money, no, they already spend the money.
Yeah.
You're going to get, not only that, the work in the street and the sidewalks that they're talking about, the only people who could qualify for that are contractors who have had 5 years experience in developing countries. So none of your local people could qualify. So you're going to give it to somebody else who can then subcontract it out to local people.
With the lean money, you have to be on trickle down thing. Yeah.
It's
Listen,
you know.
yeah, Norman, you're interesting. We could talk about one lot. We're basically out of time. Um,
Yes.
Before you go, one more thing. The the producer want to know what you think about the airplane hijacking.
Yeah,
That's another interesting story that's still hot and
that's but there's a lot of mentally ill people,
well,
even
he would
tourists.
have done crazy for that, no? So
Yeah, that's
uh,
you
my
know,
concern is that we don't see no copycat because that also is usually a part of the kickback on that, no? The
yeah.
copycat thing.
Hmm.
Um, but what I want to get from you before you go is your thoughts about the political reform process. That's well, I think it's winding up. Primarily, and you heard the case that was taken to court about the redistricting and
Yeah.
trying to make. And Joe and I have had a ongoing discussion as to whether equal or almost equal should not be more properly defined. Um,
Hmm.
my point is that almost equal seems to me quite clear that
Hmm.
equal or almost equal means that equal or almost equal. He's
Yeah.
saying, well, they shall say, well, equal within 100 uh, uh, persons or voters, or equal within 10. What's your thoughts on that?
But you know, equal or almost equal is probably the best you can come up with. Or else you're gonna it's like it's or else you end up in this debate of how many angels are on the head of a needle, a
Right,
head of a pin, or whatever
right,
that
right,
debate
right,
that they
right.
do. You
And
could
that,
you that this is something you're gonna continually because you have population shift.
yeah, good
So when
analogy.
some people move out of an area, you're gonna have to try to decide how you're gonna carve it. So I
Well,
think
a
it
review
needs to be done.
every couple of years
Yeah,
would be in order.
I think they usually do it every 10 years when they
Yeah,
do the
that
census.
that would be in order. That should work. I
Yeah,
mean,
when they
it's
do
not
the
going to
census.
always. You'll have an imbalance once they start moving out. I would
Yeah.
see maybe coming on to the 8th or 9th year where you
Yeah.
realize you
I
have to
mean,
do
it's amazing how many people have moved out of Belize City to Boom to
right,
So
right.
you're gonna have the population shift. You're gonna never be able to do it,
The problem is,
to
Norman,
the
that is not what hampers them from they're about whether they're going to lose voters or whether the next person going to gain voters,
Yep.
as
Yep.
opposed to whether we're going to really make this thing equal and make it work. So that and that personal uh, uh,
The
uh,
the
interest.
re-election the re-election considerations are primary. This is politicians you're dealing with.
Yeah, yeah. Do
It.
do we need a political reform? Are you familiar enough with with the Constitution to say, well, I'm sure you were at one point, and it has not changed much. But do we need a new Constitution? Do we need things added or things taken out?
We need a new constitution. One of the interesting thing, from what I understand, they have this. I don't know if it's called the Accounts Committee, which is headed by the opposition
Yeah, yes,
to
yes.
keep everybody honest.
Right.
Now, what has happened with that Accounts Committee in other countries is they can't meet. They don't have a quorum. The governing party just don't show up.
Right. They don't have
So,
to. They don't have
so they
to.
don't have to.
So you got a
But
chairman and nobody else to discuss
nobody else.
matters with.
So yeah. So
Public account committee is what it is.
public
Yeah.
accounts committee.
Yeah.
So there are things that you put in place that you've got to, you know,
Like for instance, they're supposed to declare their assets
uh-huh. Mhm.
periodically, but nobody does, and there's no penalty in place.
There's no
Nobody
penalty.
can. Yeah.
It doesn't affect you in your re-election bid. People not
Yes,
gonna
correct.
vote against you
They
because
don't
you
care.
didn't do it.
They're not concerned about that.
Yeah.
And that was sad state of affair. Norman,
Yes, sir.
please, can we do this again? Because man,
Anytime, my brother.
it's
Anytime.
been
I
an
know.
interesting 2 hours, and the
It's,
time just fly by. Yeah, I hope that everybody out there had as interesting a time as I had this evening. Please, we're going to call and we're try, but in particular with some,
anytime. I
yeah.
mean,
Thank you,
you're in the trenches.
my
I know what
brother.
you are.
I really appreciate it very, very much. Right? Have a
Okay.
blessed evening.
You too.
Take care, and
You
we'll see you
too.
soon. Right?
Yes,
Um,
sir.
folks, thanks a lot for joining us this evening. We'll see you next week. We're back on our Wednesday. How you feel about the Wednesday slot? You think that one better slot than the Friday? Because
Me personally?
yeah,
Eh, eh,
well, for you got it, no. All right. I don't know who cut you off or you cut it off, but that's all right. Listen, we're on Wednesday, and we're gonna be on next week Wednesday, same time, same place. We see you then. See why? We're done here.
They say you never miss your water until your well run dry. And overspilled milk, a big man is not supposed to cry. Well then, Butterbrimo, he really woman Butterbrimo. Them coulda charge her for sin. Butterbrimo, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butterbrimo, fully they made examine. Figure lose such a sweet brownie. Butterbrim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Anyways, one man lost is another man's gain. If you can't handle the traffic, then stay out the lane. Behind her beautiful smile, she was hiding her pain. You couldn't see the tears due to the falling rain. But with a woman emotions, son, you don't wanna play games. Then got certain moves that want put you to shame. And then you begging and you balling will all be in vain. When I bet she call the next morning. Remember all of the first time you meet it. You have to do that clutch much more for keep it. Candlelight dinner, wine and chocolate. Don't forget the roses, big man, you stalk it. You should have me walk her down to the pulpit and remove her sexy ass from off for the market. Your friends don't have no woman, but them calling you whip. And like an idiot, you believe it. Butterbrimo, if you're the woman, Butterbrimo. Them gonna charge her for sin. Butterbrimo, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butterbrimo, fully made examine. Figure lose such a sweet specimen. Butterbrim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. A woman is a gift unto humanity. Treat her with respect and dignity. Heed the words of the great Tyrus Riley. She royal, will treat her like royalty. She works, she cooks, she clean and wash your stinking laundry. All she wanted in return was your loyalty. Could I make her a carnival free karaoke? Her love just come down and she need a remedy. You met her at the peak of her sexuality. Wrong time to leave a big woman lonely. Pretty like an angel, but she well freaking. And now she feeling horny. Income not a dread to fulfill her fantasy. She blows when I whisper sweet nothing softly. She's on a journey. Onto ecstasy. Butterbrimo, if you're the woman, Butterbrimo. Them gonna charge her for sin. Butterbrimo, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butterbrimo, fully they made examine. Figure lose such a sweet brownie. Butterbrim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Fool him, know him, the whole in him palm my hand. Woman recently inherited acres of land. Cassava, cocoa, ganja and yam. Yeah, stripping on the box to make the Cessna land DJ. Turn up the bass and make the dance all ram. see why not the building with a brand new song. Word to the wise, all my youth man, you need exceptional skills to keep a good man. Main ingredient, communication. Stop listening for answer and for listen for overstand. All she ever needed was your affection, your kissing, caressing, and attention. You could have solved this complex equation. So go back on the rock, hence you crawl out from. You get the test and you feel the exam. Now that the dread, they read the diagram. But a brim, they wear the woman, but a brim. Them got the charter for sin. But a brim, straight cleaning, in search of a king. But a brim, fool need a made examine, figure lose such a sweet brownie. But a brim, now it's the dread she call it when she needs sexual healing.